All right. We good to go on the tech? All right. Well, welcome tonight, everyone. I'm Aimee Powelka from Sustainable Framingham. Sustainable Framingham is a group of folks working to promote sustainability in our city government and our community. We were the group who advocated for Framingham to hire a sustainability coordinator 4 years ago in our first mayoral election. So continuing in that spirit, we'll have a conversation about climate, sustainability, litter, and all the above tonight. So I'm your moderator, and we have hopefully online folks joining us as well as all of you in the audience. It's great to actually be in person. It's a wonderful, wonderful thing I don't get to enjoy very much right now. The first thing I want to do is give a huge thank you to our mayoral candidates and all our city council candidates for coming out tonight. It really means a lot for all of us. You taking your time to join us and have a conversation. We're really excited to hear your thoughts on climate, litter, rail trail, sustainability issues, and we're just so pleased that you could join us. So I wanted to give a special thank you to a couple folks in the room tonight. We have Representative Lewis back there, thank you. And we have a member of the press here, Susan Petroni from Framingham Source. Thank you. And a huge thank you to Plymouth Church, to your Reverend and all your members for hosting us here tonight. We couldn't do it without this lovely space, and we just so appreciate it. Okay, and finally, I just want to thank the team who organized this. We all worked very well together and very hard to pull it together, and hopefully some of our technical challenges have already happened before this event. And if not, everyone will be able to catch us afterwards. It's being recorded and will be available on YouTube Live. All right, so with that, let's talk a little bit about logistics, just so everyone knows. Everyone in the audience should remain with their masks on. Candidates, when it is your turn to speak, you'll come up to the floor here and you may remove your masks when you're speaking. Your microphone will be handed to you by the gentleman here. They'll be sanitized between speakers. So that's a little bit about the COVID logistics. I'm going to go through the agenda in a few moments, but I just wanted to start the evening on a successful note and say that Framingham became a green community a number of years ago, and then 4 years ago, Mayor Spicer committed to hiring our first sustainability coordinator, Sean Luz, and he has been a tremendous asset to Framingham since he's been here these couple of years. I just wanted to mention a couple things he's already accomplished. First, the city is bringing in more in grant funding for clean energy projects than it ever has before. It got a grant this year from the Green Communities Program for some municipal efficiency projects. We have 3 solar projects underway at McAuliffe Library, Fuller Middle School, and Brophy Elementary, and we have numerous other projects in design. I also want to mention that the city is working to bring the benefits of energy efficiency and clean energy to its residents. So, for example, last year, the city partnered with the Mass Save program and helped us to complete 300 energy assessments for small businesses, 550 insulation projects for residents, and 600 heating and cooling system upgrades. And this year, the city is building on those programs and accelerating access for residents and small businesses to energy efficiency, solar, and heat pumps. At the end of our evening, there'll be a slide with a link to all of these programs and additional resources available to you if you're interested. And I want to mention, if anyone is a fan of Exhibit A Brewery, there's going to be Clean Energy Night there held on Thursday, October 7th, so go check it out if you're interested. Okay, now on to the format for the evening. First of all, everyone, this event is being recorded, and as I mentioned, it will be available on YouTube following our event. We're going to start our evening by hearing a welcome from Reverend Greg Morrissey. Then we are going to hear from each candidate who will provide an introductory statement based upon a theme provided to them in advance. Then each candidate has a chance to answer 2 additional questions. One of these questions has been provided in advance. The other of these questions will come from you, the audience, tonight. If you're in real life, please be sure to write down any questions on a 3x5 card and hold it up for collection. So if you need a card, you can raise your hand, and our volunteer, Mary Mehmet, over here, can hand out cards and pens and then collect them. If you are joining us online, please enter any questions into the chat. And unfortunately, there will not be time to answer all our questions from the audience, so we're going to select 6 questions starting around 7:45. So if you have a burning question, get that in right away. All right, let's get the evening started with a welcome from Reverend Greg Morrissey.
Good evening and welcome to tonight's candidate forum. My name is Gregory Morrissey. I am the senior pastor here at the Plymouth Church in Framingham. We are an open and affirming congregation in the United Church of Christ, which is just our fancy way of saying whoever you are, whatever your journey, however you end up voting, you belong here. You don't need to be or do anything to be loved, to be valued, and to be supported by your community. Framingham is more than just where we live, right? We are a network of relationships, of neighborhoods, of neighbors. We create and sustain this city together by sharing our wisdom and our labor. Each of us, therefore, has a role to play in drawing out the best in each other. If you have a little extra, you give to your neighbor who has a little less. Because we rise and we fall together. We progress and we regress together. Our topic tonight is the climate, the air, the earth, the waterways. Tonight we talk about climate disruption, but also about climate repair. This is a strategic issue. As weather patterns are more and more chaotic and unpredictable, are we prepared? And are we protecting the most vulnerable in our community? This is an economic issue. What we produce, what we buy, how we consume, what we do with what we have used. And this is also a moral issue, because we know the impacts of climate disruption and pollution are not shared equally amongst our people. Severe storms and market fluctuations have lasting impacts for generations to come. So tonight we can address honestly, with scientific fact, the reality of climate change, acknowledging the intersections of racism, ableism, xenophobia, and economic inequity, to name just a few of the systemic injustices out there. Tonight, we have the opportunity to stand up, and to stand out, and to stand together. It is our privilege to partner with Sustainable Framingham and Frist Parish, our neighbors across the street. And it is my honor to welcome the candidates for mayor and city council and all of you who have come here to ask your questions, and to those of you who are watching from home online. Thank you.
Thank you, Reverend. We are now going to turn to the candidates' introductory statements. Each candidate will have 90 seconds to make their introduction. They were provided this theme in advance. We have timers sitting here in the audience who will provide a visual cue when 15 seconds remain, and again when 5 seconds remain. You each will have 90 seconds for your introductory statement. And I will interrupt a candidate that has exceeded their time limit so that each candidate is given a fair amount of time to speak. We'll go in alphabetical order of the candidates that are called up. We're going to start with the mayoral candidates, if you please. Candidate Sisitsky and Mayor Yvonne Spicer. You may each come up here and grab a microphone on your way up. You may remove your masks. And I think we have enough spacing here that as you take turns, we should be able to remain safely spaced. So this is the theme that the mayoral candidates were provided in advance. Please discuss the sustainability initiatives that you previously championed as a public official. Then speak to how you plan to lead us as a city in addressing climate change, including any specific goals and targets for the end of your term in 2026. And we'll start with you, Mr. Sisitsky.
Thank you. Good evening. Over the past 40 years, in both my professional and elected capacities, I have supported initiatives to combat the crucial issues of climate change. As a member of the Fuller School Building Committee, I led the effort to make sure that the building would be as green as possible in order to get additional reimbursement from the state, along with ensuring that solar panels were installed. As the Public Works Director in Natick, I partnered with Framingham DPW to build and install trash gates on Beaver Dam Brook to prevent trash from polluting Lake Cochituate. As mayor, I will work in environmental justice neighborhoods to ensure that the cleanup of General Chemical and Mary Dennison Park moves ahead expeditiously. I will establish outreach programs to communicate with owners of residential buildings in these neighborhoods to make them aware of energy-efficient programs to improve the dwelling units for their tenants. I intend to focus on initiatives to preserve, protect, and expand open spaces. I will undertake a master plan for trails throughout the city with passive and active recreational resources, along with an emphasis on completing the Bruce Friedman Rail Trail. The challenges presented by climate change require bold and innovative responses. I will lead with urgency our city's efforts to create an environment in better balance with the natural world. We must achieve a net zero footprint in our community by implementing policies to reduce carbon emissions to tackle global warming. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sisitsky. Mayor Spicer.
Good evening. All of our residents need to be able to live safely and breathe clean air and drink clean water. I've dealt with issues that have faced for the past 20 years or more that went unanswered when my opponent was in office. I'm proud of the climate action we have taken in the last 4 years. I've collaborated with the City Council to create the first ever Sustainability Committee. I hired our very first Sustainability Coordinator who generated $4.8 million in energy efficiency and resiliency programs for public buildings and small business incentives. I brought in $490,000 in grant for climate vulnerability projects. I'm cleaning up hazardous waste at the General Chemical site near Harmony Grove Elementary School, long neglected when my opponent was a selectman. In my next term, I will build on the progress through electric transit, decarbonization, pollution control, and some of the goals that we have in place, a strategic plan to get Framingham to net zero emissions and run on 100% renewable energy, electrify municipal fleet and public transit, expand public transportation across our city, continue to tackle pollution, and we've laid the foundation, and we are clearly focused on a more sustainable future for Framingham. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary Spicer. Go ahead. Please hand your mics back. All right. And now we'll hear from the City Council candidates. We have grouped the candidates by their district. They will also have 90 seconds to answer the following theme that was provided in advance. So if I could call up the candidates from District 2, please.
Thank you.
Our candidates for District 2 are Jacob Binnall and Councilor Cesar Stewart-Morales. The question posed to all the City Council candidates was, what bold sustainability initiative will you commit to funding to enable its completion by the end of your term? So we'll go in alphabetical order. So we'll start with Jacob Binnall, please. 90 seconds.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Jake Binnall. I've lived in Framingham since I was 8 years old, and I got involved shortly after that. And as one of the youngest people running for office this year, I can't attest enough how important taking actual action on climate change and sustainability is. I want to be able to raise not only my children, but grandchildren in this town, city, but we can't do that if it's full of pollution or I have to worry about my grandchildren swimming in water for contamination or any of those things. And while we can celebrate small victories, like creating a committee or talking about things that matter that haven't been talked about before, that is worth celebrating, but we need more. Our city's progress on solar is laughable. Our schools are beating us as a city as a whole for making progress there. And like both candidates just said, it's important to expand access to electrified public transportation and expand not just solar, but all clean energy production in the city of Framingham, not just planning, but doing. So if elected, I would commit to working with anyone who else is elected in this city to making all of those things happen. Thank you.
Thank you. And Councilor Stewart-Morales.
Good evening, everybody. I am Cesar Stewart-Morales. My pronouns are he, him. I am the District 2 City Councilor and the current chair of the Environment and Sustainability Subcommittee. In my professional life, I'm a CPA, and I've built my career in the energy industry. I currently work on Vineyard Wind 1, which is the most exciting project, renewable energy project in the country. It's a large-scale offshore wind farm that we're building off the coast of Martha's Vineyard. Locally, many of you know me as a consistent partner on the sustainability priorities that we're discussing tonight. I, of course, plan to continue in my role as Environment and Sustainability Subcommittee if the Framingham residents send me back to the council for a second term. I'm proud of the agenda that we've taken on so far through our subcommittee, and I would argue that it's been bold, because it has been, it's the boldest agenda that our city has taken up yet. I will make a commitment to you that I believe is a pretty realistic one among what you'll hear tonight, because I already made the bold proposal. When Sustainable Framingham's citizens petition came to my desk and asked the city council to consider municipal aggregation in our city, I said, let's be bold. Let's give the mayor the legislative authority that she needs in order to start that process. Our subcommittee agreed, and I commit to working with the mayor's administration over the next 2 years to fully vet and implement a municipal aggregation plan that works for Framingham. Some of our local leaders, like myself, have only a few years of experience.
Can you wrap up, please?
Yes, I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Have only a few years of experience, but we have a lot of tangible progress in this area to show. Thank you.
Thank you. Will candidates from District 3 please come up?
Thank you very much.
Our candidates from District 3 are Mary Kate Feeney and Councilor Adam Steiner. We'll go in alphabetical order, so we'll start with Mary Kate Feeney.
Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone, for coming tonight. Imagine a Framingham that is the hub of trails in Metro West. Imagine that we have a city fleet of electric vehicles and charging stations found throughout the city. Imagine a cleaned Mary Dennison Park. Imagine a swap shop at the recycling center or a community-wide composting program. Imagine that we design our streets to move people, not just cars. Imagine. Unfortunately, we're no closer to that vision than we were 4 years ago. And one of the reasons why I am running for council is because I am angry and frustrated that we are not taking action. The urgency on this issue of climate change is not found in our council. It is not found in our government, and we need to do more. And you should be frustrated as I am and hold people accountable. And that is why I believe that we need a new generation of councilors who are committed to do the work. So here's the thing, here's my promise to you. 2 years from now, when we are gathered here again, we're going to celebrate the progress that we have made, and we're going to refocus on the new challenges. The vision that I lined out for you, we're going to get done. I am not going to be a rubber stamp for the status quo. I am not going to let my relationships with the mayor get in the way of what is best for the people of Framingham. We could do better. We could imagine better. I believe in Framingham, don't you? Thank you.
Thank you. And Councillor Steiner.
Thank you, everybody. I'm Adam Steiner. I am District 3 City Councilor running for re-election. I was born in Framingham and raised here, went to Framingham Public Schools, and my wife, who I met at Framingham North, and I chose to raise our family here because we felt that Framingham was a place where kids could grow up in a healthy and safe environment. And as a councilor, I've worked to fight for the environment, not only for Framingham, but for the entire country, and that's something that I will continue. Specifically with this question, you know, a wise person told me that you can't do everything all at once, but you've got to do something all at once. And I think there's several areas that we need to work on. First, around trash. We should be banning styrofoam, black plastic, and nip bottles. And that, you know, that may require support for businesses. I would provide the funding so we can help those businesses make that transition, but we need to do that. Around transportation, we need to be working to increase our public transportation. We need to work with our state delegation to turn the commuter rail into a better option than driving, one that is more dependable. And on energy, we need to be doing more with our city buildings. We need to be doing more to give businesses the incentives to use clean energy. We need to do all of those things. And then the last specific one that I think is doable in the next 2 years, we're hear a lot about the Bruce Freeman Rail Trail. We need to start thinking about our rail trails as not just recreation, but also transportation. Our businesses in the tech park, which is also in District 3, say we need more employees, and they want to live in a place where they can bike to work, and so we need to make that happen. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Steiner. All right, here's the embarrassing part of the evening. I haven't met every one of the city council candidates. Do we have any candidates from District 9 here tonight? Okay. Just wanted to make sure. All right, with that, we are going to move on to District 6 candidate Phil Ottaviani. Is he here? I don't see him either. Okay, we had a few RSVPs that didn't come. Oh, I know I saw him. Councillor Stefanini, there you are in the back. Can I call you up? Thank you. And yes, and I guess you're gonna be a solo tonight.
Thank you, sir. Can I share with you before I start? Phil Ottaviani, I spoke to earlier today. He's having some very serious back and sciatica issues.
Okay.
And he wanted folks to know that he couldn't make it.
Okay.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is John Stefanini. I am district councilor from District 8, which is Cobenville, Tripoli, and the Arlington Street and Bates Street neighborhoods. As I was thinking about this, I thought about something Greta Thunberg said yesterday when she was interviewed, and she was asked, what advice would you give global leaders? And she said, we are watching. You should be ashamed at pretending to deal with climate change. You should be ashamed. And if she were here, she would say that to every single person asking the question and every person answering the question. So to pretend we're celebrating and getting things done, we are so far behind where our community wants to be in a sense of environmental justice. We have no measurable benchmarks. We have no overarching goals. We have a committee that has barely met and barely getting anything done. We need to be serious about this. That means we need to have less motion and more movement. And we need to know the difference between those two things. We need to ban styrofoam and plastics. We need to get it done. But we need to do the work to get it done, not just talk about getting it done. We need to adopt trails, but we have to adopt a trail committee and empower the people who know where the trails are. We need to know how to get the things done we need to get done. If I'm reelected, I will work on everything and anything I can do to make Framingham a greener community. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Stefanini. Do we have Cheryl Gordon ready to go? Yeah, okay. Now we'll hear from the District 5 candidates. So District 5 is going to be our hybrid for tonight. We have one candidate in person, Noval Alexander, and we have one candidate joining us remotely, Cheryl Gordon. And so you will each have 90 seconds, again, to have your introductory statement. We will go in alphabetical order, which means that Noval Alexander will go first. Thank you.
Thank you. And good evening to everyone here and watching on various platforms on TV. I also want to thank you, the sponsors of this event, as well as the members of the Plymouth Church for hosting us. While our city has made some important strides toward climate change initiatives and resilience, our city has not yet kicked itself into high gear when it comes to planning and increasing city vehicle fleets to electric vehicles, retrofitting roofs and solar panels, and building solar canopies over parking lots. If I am elected, I'd like to focus on implementing a smart growth plan. This is where we use existing city government entities, and like the Planning Board and the Sustainability Committee, as a smart growth clearinghouse. Any new commercial and residential development in the city over a certain amount of square footage would have to go through this clearinghouse. These entities would examine the environmental impacts on all relevant municipal services, such as including our schools, before giving approval. If elected, I assure you that I am a person of action and conviction. My military background and what I've tried to accomplish with others while serving on school committee and Fuller School Building Committee speaks to that. I supported and advocated for solar panels and solar canopies at our new school and to ensure the new building would be climate change resilient as well as cost-saving efficiency. We need leaders that will recognize these challenges and not pay lip service to the people of Framingham any longer. I humbly ask the voters of District 5 to support me and vote for me on November 2nd. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Alexander. We'll now turn to our candidate Cheryl Gordon, and audience is going to direct your attention to the screen.
My name is Cheryl Gordon. I'm a lifelong Framingham resident, and I'm running for City Council in District 5 because I care deeply about our community and our environment. I think the most important thing our city can do to save our environment is to educate the public about small changes they can personally make that have a huge impact. For example, our city's beaches have been mostly closed this year due to water contamination. The city has a great recycling education program. However, where is the education program on safer or organic lawn care practices that will help protect these bodies of water? I commit to working with fellow councilors towards having the city develop a program to begin educating residents about replacing chemical use on their lawns. I would like to see the city partner with some local experts on safer lawn care practices and perhaps include some information with our tax bills on their Facebook page and through local media. Perhaps our sustainability coordinator could even secure a grant to acquire some organic products that residents could pick up at the recycle center. If If we can get at least 5,000 homes using less dangerous chemicals, that would dramatically reduce the chemical runoff in our streams, ponds, and lakes. I believe we can make Framingham a healthier place and that the government should play a role in protecting our environment and our bodies of water. And I've put additional information about ideas that I have on my Facebook page, which is Cheryl for City Council 5. Thank you.
Wonderful, thank you. All right, and now we will hear from City Council candidates from District 7. If Magda Janus could come up, please, and then we'll hear from Leora Mallach on a recorded video.
Good evening, everyone, and thanks for coming. Thank you for organizing it. I feel like it's a tough act to follow. I think the most effective and efficient initiative our city government can support would be a comprehensive municipal solar planning and implementation. Sustainability must work for the environment as well as community and the economy of Framingham. Our government can lead by example, researching the cost, the savings, and the benefits of the solar energy for all our municipal buildings would give us, the community, not only the better understanding why it's important to convert to it, but also a possibility to actually do it. Our plan should include not only detailed and very transparent cost, but also how the savings would be used. Ultimately, I would like to see the money saved to be diverted to the city first responders, our police department, and firefighters, but that is a topic for a completely different forum. If elected, I am confident that it is possible to put together a plan and figure out a timeline to equip all our city-owned buildings with solar energy in 2 years, as long as the city council and the mayor's office agree to work together and look for federal and state initiative programs to fund this endeavor. It can absolutely be done. Thank you.
Thank you. And now we'll hear from candidate Leora Mallach, who is observing her faith tonight and provided us with a video.
My name is Leora Mallach. As a longtime environmental activist and advocate, a member of the Framingham Agricultural Advisory Committee, the Sudbury Valley Trustees, Native Plant Trust, Stearns Farm CSA, and Keep Framingham Beautiful, I care deeply about the stewardship of our local natural spaces and the whole of planet Earth. I'm not joining you in person this evening, as my Jewish practice holds that Friday evenings are for the celebration of the start of the Sabbath. The principles of the Sabbath, as a mandated break in the cycle of production, underlies my environmental principles. We cannot continuously produce and consume without replenishment. Such is the story of creation that integrated a period of rest into the completion of the creation of the world. My vision for a sustainable Framingham is not within one program initiative, but a pervasive ethic that is found in all departments and decision-making. I look forward to the newly formed Sustainability Committee integrating and leading in this way. While Sean Luz, our Sustainability Coordinator, is a great start, we need to elevate the position to one of a Sustainability Director. This will help us build the infrastructure and support for the many individual initiatives that are no doubt being discussed here this evening. It might not be fun or sexy or splashy, but that effective foundation will be the mechanism for change. Now is the time for Framingham to establish itself as a leader in addressing climate change and to work collaboratively with our municipal neighbors in Metro West to do so. Nature knows no borders, and neither does the climate impacts we're experiencing.
Great. Councillor Bryant, would you like to provide us your introductory statement? Yes. Okay. Come on up. And you're welcome to remove your mask up here.
First, I want to apologize for being late.
Oh, I'm sorry. Hang on 1 minute.
Okay. I said, first, I want to apologize for being late. We are all very, very busy. So,
So just to introduce myself, my name is Tracey Bryant, and I am the current District 9 City Councilor, and I'm asking for your vote to be reelected, those of you who live in District 9, and just to acquaint you with my advocacy for sustainability and environmental, improvements, or to stop the global, well, they want to call it global warming. I call it global, homicide, global abuse. But most of the people who are on the environmental committees and sustainability efforts do know my support of it. Things that I would do, the things listed in the question, I would do all of them at once in the next 2 years. Now, people will say, but how, Tracey? We can't afford that. It's too much to do all at once. And I would say that we can't afford not to do it all at once because the clock is ticking. 2 years ago, we were told we had 12 years to reverse the problem, and now we have 10, which is a drop in the bucket. So we have to prioritize all of the things, reducing emissions, helping to purify the water, get the water better again, and all of the things that we need to do. So I would be in full support, and I would push the budget. I would be behind a budget that prioritizes an all EV municipal fleet. We would be leading by example, and it would be an example of reducing Framingham's carbon footprint. Solar paneling, I've been advocating that forever and strongly. When the school committee saw the last draft for the new Fuller building, I questioned why we only had solar panels for the carport and not on the roof. And I was told, well, that could be done later, but I said our fierce advocates would not understand why we didn't put it in, which would be cheaper to do it now.
And Councilor Bryan, can we?
Okay.
Wrap it up.
So I agree with all of it, and I also fought for the McAuliffe building to have solar panels. Any efforts we can make with anything that will reduce reverse what's going on solar-wise and environmentally, we need to do right away.
Thank you, Councilor Bryant.
Thank you.
All right. All right, audience, a shout out for questions. Who needs a card? Who has a question to write? Please submit your questions. And online, if there are questions, get those on a card. All right, now we're going to turn to the next section of the forum. And we're going to turn to the questions provided to the candidates in advance. The groupings are going to remain the same, where we're going to first hear from the mayoral candidates, followed by city council candidates by district. This time, each candidate only has 60 seconds to answer the question. As a reminder, our timers are going to present a visual cue at 15 seconds and 5 seconds remaining, and I will prompt you to finish when those timers has been done. And may I now ask the mayoral candidates to please come to the microphone. We can show the mayoral question on the slide, please. Oh. Why don't you go? Yeah, it's up here. Just give it a quick wipe. Thank you. All right, we have the question on the slides here for folks, but I'm going to read it as well. The mayoral candidates were posed this question. Assume Framingham has a chance to be awarded $1 million to do climate mitigation and resiliency. Will you create a position reporting directly to you to manage climate and sustainability efforts? How will you ensure that the city has a staff capacity to fully access these funds? And how will you spend these funds? This time, can we please hear from Mayor Spicer first?
Framingham has been awarded more than $1 million in my first term as mayor, and I have already hired our first sustainability coordinator. Our sustainability coordinator has already brought in the $4.8 million in energy efficient and resiliency programs for public buildings and business incentives. One of my most immediate priorities is electrifying vehicles in our municipal fleet. We requested this 3 years ago. It was denied. We've been requesting it, and we're going to hopefully make some headway with that this year. Increasing electrical charging stations around Framingham and creating opportunities for residents to purchase electric vehicles. In the long term, we must expand electrifying public transportation. It is the best way to reduce our emissions and our transportation and bring climate justice to underserved parts of our community. My next term will focus on climate action by electrifying transportation for a cleaner environment.
Thank you, Mayor Spicer. And Mr. Sisitsky.
Framingham currently has a very competent sustainability coordinator. I therefore see no need to recreate a position that already exists. However, with the current structure of the position, he is burdened with the administrative tasks that are required to run these programs. I propose to add support staff so that the coordinator can focus on the programs and obtain additional grants. I would also look to use some of the money to fund the master plan for the trails. Additionally, I would use it to pay for an outreach program in the environmental justice neighborhoods, use it to supplement grants that require a local match, and use this money to fund renewable energy projects. We need to take advantage of the capabilities of other departments in the city and use them as necessary and appropriate to supplement the work of this department. This would apply as well to making significant and measurable improvements in the way we use all of our resources as a municipality to make positive environmental impacts for the entire community. Thank you.
Thank you. And now to the City Council candidates. 5 questions were provided in advance, and we have randomly selected a question for each grouping of candidates. Can we have the slide, please, for the City Council candidates? So the questions were based on one of these 5 themes: supporting sustainable development, plastics, environmental justice and equity, waste and litter, or bike trails master planning. Again, candidates were given all questions in advance and prepared for all questions, and they will answer them randomly based on a number drawing. So, may I have District 2 candidates please come up? District 2 has drawn the question on plastics. The question reads, plastics are a topic of growing concern for many reasons, including litter, waste, human health, recycling contamination, financial costs to the city, and fossil fuel use for their production. How will you address plastics on a citywide policy basis rather than pushing responsibility back to individual residents and businesses? And Councilor Stewart-Morales, please.
I am so grateful for the members and the volunteers that have brought Keep Framingham Beautiful to our city. I see all of you out here in the audience. Through your efforts, you have recognized common issues when it comes to littering in Framingham. Naturally, and not surprisingly to me, you took that knowledge a step further and brought it to the attention of your city council. The issues made it to the environmental subcommittee for more consideration by a margin of a single vote. The only councilors participating tonight that voted for it are Councilor Steiner, Councilor Bryant, and myself. We need more progressive voices in our local government. Thanks to you, my subcommittee can now start talking about adding more trash and recycle bins in different locations, more public education, considerations of nip bottle bans, and other citywide policies that will help with this issue. When it came time to vote, it was the progressive voices in the right seats in our local government that are going to make this happen. I ask for your support. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Stewart-Morales.
Hi, everybody. Again, my name is Binnall. From the time I was at McCarthy.
Is it working? Wait.
Is this working now?
Yeah.
Thank you. All right, let's try this again. My name is Jake Binnall, and from the time I was in 5th grade at McCarthy Elementary, working on recycling initiatives and educating my peers on what's recyclable and what's not, to the times at UMass where I took numerous courses on sustainable planning and municipal action on green initiatives, and up until recently volunteering with the Keep Framingham Beautiful, I cared deeply about making sure that our community is free from litter, trash, plastic, whatever the material. In regards to plastic specifically, we need action from our city to expand access to clean water through refillable drink stations throughout the city so that residents can rely on reusable water bottles without having to stop at the store and grab a plastic water bottle. We need to expand access to recycling receptacles throughout the city. And circling back, people still don't know what's recyclable and what's not where they are, and that changes, and it's complicated, and that is a problem. But the city needs to do better on educating people on how to properly dispose of our materials. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Binnall. All right. Next, may I call up the candidates from District 3, please? District 3 chose the random question. Framingham has many recreational trails approaching from all of our surrounding towns. We have the potential to be the trail hub of Metro West, bringing many people into and passing through our community daily. How will you go about creating a trails master plan for the city with trail connectivity as a priority? Who will lead this effort? What would be your timeline, and how would you facilitate funding? Please, Councilor Steiner, we'll start with you.
Thank you. First, I don't know how I ended up one of the older council candidates now. I guess there has been a phase shift. I'm so glad this question came up because I think that this is a critical question and it really connects to a comment I made before, and that's that we need to start thinking about our bike trails as not just recreation, but actual transportation. And so the way to actually make that happen is to form a committee that starts at the top with the mayor, the council chair, who show a commitment to this. Has members of our DPW who need to recognize that people are not going to bike on narrow roads when they're not dedicated bike lanes. It needs to have members of our business community. What I've heard from the heads of TJX and Genzyme is that we have trouble hiring folks, and what they tell us is we want this alternate transportation. Get them around the table, and together with all of these stakeholders, we can work to make our bike trails an actual transportation hub and not just a recreation hub. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Steiner. And now, Mary Kate.
Thank you. I love rail trails. I don't know if you've seen online, but I run a Framingham Rail Trails group. I've been a longtime advocate. We talk about it all the time. So here's what we're going to do to get this done. First off, there's a biking, sidewalk, trails committee that has been stuck in the council sustainability committee since March. We need to get that going, and if that doesn't happen this year, I will refile that in January because we need to have the conversation about rails that come from the consumers, from you. Not from department heads and not from elected officials. We have to hear from you, and you have to move the policy and tell the elected officials what to do. Secondly, I want to work with that committee and the mayor and come up with an ambitious trail plan to connect all of our trails that are in this community and the Bruce Friedman Trail and make them a system so that we are the hub. Lastly, we're going to work with our state and federal delegation to find the funding and to get the funding to make these trails happen. Last night, there was an update about the Bruce Friedman Rail Trail, and I am greatly concerned that we are going to miss any and all deadlines because the city is not taking it seriously. We need our partners in the federal government and in our state delegation to get this done. This is the action that needs to take place. Enough of words. I'm sick of words. Let's do it. Thank you.
Thank you. And now may I call up Councilor Stefanini and Councilor Bryant. You both don't have opponents, so I'm going to group you together for this next question. Opponents here tonight, I should say.
Thank you.
All right. The question for you is, to stop increasing carbon emissions, we must invest first and foremost in renewable technologies and stop investing in fossil fuels as soon as possible. Will you support adopting the statewide net zero building code for new construction as soon as possible? And how will you encourage developers seeking to build in Framingham to adopt clean energy technologies? Councilor Stefanini, we'll start with you.
Thank you. The answer is yes. And we need to look at creative ideas. I would commend the idea of looking at thermal energy for the muster field and some of the area around there for central heat. I think we need to look and work with individuals. One of the things that's missing in the themes that we're talking about is when leaders are only asked to lead, we get one form of leadership. When the congregation is asked to be part of the conversation, we get a different one. The reality is we have to work with builders and developers and investors in places like Plymouth Church on an individual basis to figure out how do we make this more sustainable. But it starts with us having a goal. By 2030, we should try to do what every other community has done and set a goal to be carbon neutral. That's doable. We haven't set that goal in Framingham. We don't have benchmarks to get there. If we do, then we turn around and we call Greg Morrissey and say, Greg, you're a wonderful human being, nice to see you. But we also say, how do we turn this sanctuary into something that is efficient? And we'll develop a plan one by one. It's building blocks, not hard, it's work.
Thank you, Councilor Stefanini. Councilor Bryant?
Okay. So I would say I am 100% behind it. I've made that very clear in the past, and I will continue to do so. And I am confident that the Framingham Democratic Committee will continue to advocate even harder for that. Thank you. We'll advocate even harder for that. We definitely need to be in tandem with the state on this. And how do we encourage developers seeking to build in Framingham? I think it's too late to gently encourage. I think we need to mandate it, that if you don't build green, you don't build in Framingham. I think that we are at that point now. We don't have time to wait, okay? And incentive for business is basically whether they're going to get the job or not. I think it will incentivize business to do that. And to paraphrase Joe Biden, we can't build back backwards. We have to build back better.
Wonderful. Thank you. All right, last call on audience questions while we hear from our remaining candidates. I would like to go now to candidate Cheryl Gordon online, please. And I'll call up Noval Alexander, please. All right, your question is, one of the most active environmental groups in Framingham is Keep Framingham Beautiful. Their volunteers pick up litter every day around the city with the hopes of one day having a litter-free city. What do you think the city of Framingham can do to reduce waste and litter in order to support the efforts of this group? And we'll go to Cheryl Gordon first, please.
Just to clarify, I thought I was doing the remote question next that you had assigned to me.
Okay, my apologies.
Is that all right if I stick
Yes,
with that?
that is fine. The question, and my apologies, this was my error. The question posed to Cheryl Gordon was, the climate emergency is here and now. The climate action plan was deferred from the city budget by the city council this year. How will you ensure that future climate, clean energy, and sustainability projects are prioritized and quickly funded?
When you look at what's happening all over the world right now with the climate crisis, we cannot defer taking action. In order to gain credibility on the importance of sustainability measures with taxpayers, we need to make sure we're utilizing funds in a very specific way that has a very specific positive impact on the environment. The more credibility we gain, the more programs we will have support for. Framingham has a very talented sustainability coordinator. I would love to see the City Council add a segment to their agenda, at least quarterly, but even monthly would be better, where the sustainability coordinator joins the meeting and can give an update to the council and the public on current initiatives, or even to update the public on programs that are currently available. Deadlines for those programs, or even making clear that the coordinator is a resource to the community and can help people figure out what they qualify for. For example, how many Framingham residents even know that you can replace inefficient old appliances through many programs in Framingham, and the income threshold for these programs is very high. That means using less water, less electricity, less heating oil, and reducing our carbon footprint. As I said in my introduction, education must be a key driver in all sustainability initiatives. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. And candidate Noval Alexander is going to answer the question about Keep Framingham Beautiful and reducing, how can the city reduce waste and litter in order to support the efforts of this group?
Thank you for the question. And I just wanted to commend the group that I see them out there all the time on my way to work, the yellow t-shirts, and I drive around them and try to honk and say hello, and it's very commendable that what you do, and you definitely need some support. I'm hoping that we could push our delegation, our legislative delegation, to ban nips, because that's probably one item that they can take out of that trash stream. I believe also in the value of work and the ethics of work. We have a population in a downtown area that I believe that may be a source to tap to encourage them to join efforts. Maybe we can do something like a warden system. I've seen that in other cities and locales across the globe. So I think that's one initiative that we could try to push to help those folks along and try to reduce the trash stream with some initiatives from the state, and we can do that. I believe we can do that and more. So that's all I have. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. And may I call up the candidate from District 7, Magda Janus, please. Magda, it'd be wonderful if you also answer the question about Keep Framingham Beautiful. I'll reread it. One of the most active environmental groups in Framingham is Keep Framingham Beautiful. Their volunteers pick up litter every day around the city with the hopes of one day having a litter-free city. What do you think the city of Framingham can do to reduce waste and litter in order to support the efforts of this group?
Several things come to mind to help the efforts of Keep Framingham Beautiful, to keep our city cleaner. I think that we should try to install more trash and recycling receptacles in all the areas where the trash is more prevalent. There are also laws in Massachusetts that carry a pretty high fines for littering. Posting the signs in those areas could help, and enforcing those laws could make a difference. Creating fundraisers for the group that would help them get the supplies to do the job is definitely something that entire city could get behind. Selling the t-shirts that you're all wearing could be a wonderful fundraiser that would help you get the supplies. But more importantly, I think we need to sit down together and, if elected, have a talk and see what you truly need, and then get behind what your needs are and support them from the seat that I might be holding. Thank you.
Thank you. And now we will hear from the candidate from District 7, Leora Mallach, who has provided us a video with answering the question about the climate emergency is here and now. And the climate action plan was deferred from the city budget by city council this year. How will you ensure that future climate, clean energy, and sustainability projects are prioritized and quickly funded?
We have a history in Framingham of engaged and organized residents around sustainability issues, and I look forward to working with you all to continue to engage and educate our neighbors, other counselors, our business owners, and citizen leadership. I believe in grassroots people power and responsive representation. Organizing this forum is a great example, so thank you. In our municipal government, I don't know that quickly funded is truly possible. As a founder of an organization, I am focused and at times relentless, and I intend to be so in the context of addressing our climate emergency. I am heartened by the recent Municipal Vulnerability Preparedness Action grant money we received from the Baker-Paluto administration. The support from the state must be built upon. I encourage folks to join the discussion of Framingham's use of the federal ARPA money at the Finance Subcommittee meeting on Tuesday evening at 7 p.m. to prioritize funding our plan for municipal responsiveness and development of a climate action plan.
Thank you, and we're just gonna have a quick pause in the programming. We have a lot of great questions from the audience. Give us like 2 minutes to pick 6 out. Thanks everyone for your attention so far. The answers from the candidates have been great. Now we're on for the Stump Your Candidate questions. So as Mary said, it was very difficult to select only 6 questions, so I'm glad I didn't have that job. I've already made enough errors tonight, right? I mean, okay. Anyways, I think everyone's doing a great job. So, I have a set of questions here. I have read them all, so at least I can read them back to you logistically. When I call up the candidates, Allie, you want to pick one? You want to pick one? Al will pick your question for the first set of candidates. All right. We are going to call up the virtual candidate now and go in reverse order, just because it'll make things a little easier logistically. So we're gonna start with the candidates from District 5. Cheryl Gordon will be online, and Noval Alexander will come on up. The question to these candidates is, what are your plans to convert the city-owned fleet to electric vehicles? And if we could start with Cheryl, please.
So this is a big topic for me because I've been talking about this since the 90s when we had, at one point, we had about 80 take-home vehicles. And we've reduced it over the years. I think we have 40-something vehicles. I think we need to sell some of those vehicles, have less take-home vehicles, and then invest in replacing them as they go out of use. You know, as they have too many repairs that are needed, we replace them with electric vehicles whenever we can get, you know, a good deal on them. And it would be a good opportunity to just have less vehicles overall that leaves the city of Framingham. And that also will reduce our insurance costs. We can put that money towards other sustainability initiatives that actually will have an impact much greater than having employees driving cars home all over the place. We have, I think, 45 right now, and that's too many, so.
Thank you, Ms. Gordon. And Mr. Alexander.
Thank you. Yes, I totally believe that the fleet needs to be upgraded, modernized, and when they come into the end of life, or maybe shortly before that, we need to be very conscious about changing them into electric vehicles. But I think first we should have a very good inventory as to why or where, what the use of those vehicles are, what's the purpose of their existence, and have kind of a robust plan as to when we sunset these vehicles and bring electric vehicles online. But we also would need to increase our electric vehicle stations to support that. So I think we need to have a real good look at how this is going to play out, and when do we, and what particular vehicles are eligible for this, and we need to have some kind of plan, kind of like the school department does with some of their vehicles as well. So, thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Alexander. Reverend. You want to pick the question? Thank you. I'm going to call on you from now on. Okay, so next we have the candidates from District 7, Magda, Janus, and Mr. Stefanini, Councilor Stefanini, please come on up. All right, the question that was randomly chosen is, nips are small alcohol bottles that are found all over our roadsides. They encourage driving under the influence and littering. Will you support a ban? Yes or no, and how soon for implementation? All right. Councilor Stefanini, please.
Thank you. Probably not. I don't think that nips are the answer to the environment. Singling out a single product that deals with a socioeconomic class that's very different. If we banned martinis, would people here be satisfied with that? Workers and lower income people use nips. It's a fact. They are trash and they should be taken off our street, and we should have enforcement. We're not proposing banning Dunkin' Donuts coffee cups. We're singling out a specific product that is of a specific socioeconomic group. That's discriminatory. And we need to think about it not as an issue of trash, not an issue of sustainability, but one of public health. And I'm open to the discussion of public health and alcohol and how we deal with banning products, but we should rethink how we look at that. I personally don't use nips. I'm sure most people in this room don't, but I could tell you a lot of blue-collar workers who do. Thank you.
Thank you. And Ms. Janus.
I wish I could provide a different answer, but I sort of agree. Banning it is not going to fix it. The people who actually drink will go to another place, drive longer, and still buy them in another town over. What I would like to see is a statewide initiative to put a small fee on the bottles, and they will never be on the street because the people who pick up all the cans, all the bottles, and take them to the redemption center will pick up these little itty-bitty tiny bottles. It'll be a less work for them, and the streets will be clean. That is something I can back up. That is something that I feel strongly about. But as Mr. Stefanini said, saying that people can't buy it in Framingham is not going to fix the problem. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we will turn now to District 2 City Council candidates, please.
Thank you.
All right, the question that was selected for you is, Some cities and towns in Massachusetts have declared a climate emergency. Do you support Framingham making this declaration? Please expand. And yes, let's go to Mr. Binnall first.
It's working this time, just going to confirm. All right. Similar to some of the language that was just used, I don't think just stating something makes us do something. So while I will say right now we are in a climate emergency, I'm very scared for the future of us living here, and we do need to take that seriously. I don't think putting the city's governing efforts into just saying we have a climate emergency so that the leaders can then say, look what we did, is enough. I think we need to ask for more than that, and I think we need to be asking for all of the policy ideas that have been talked about tonight. So sure, I'd be down for acknowledging that formally, but only as so far as that comes along with promised action to do something about said emergency. So if we're just going to say we have a climate emergency, I don't see the point in doing that. But if we're going to acknowledge we do have one and that's why we need to enact certain policies, that makes more sense to me.
Thank you. And Councilor Stewart-Morales.
Thank you. I will say it right now. We have a climate emergency in Framingham. We have a climate emergency in our whole country, in the whole globe. And yes, absolutely, I would support a resolution to say that formally through the City Council. But I agree in that we need to back that up with action, and our action. And the action of many of the candidates that are running for City Council today and for office now can be measured by our track records. Those that are running that have 10 and 20 years of track records have very little to show for progress in this area. Those that are running that have 2 and 4 years have plenty of tangible progress that has been made that we can point to. We need more progressive voices in our local government, true progressive voices, and those are the ones that are being challenged right now. So I need to support, we need the right people in the right seats to get real action moving on climate, on the climate crisis.
Thank you. All right, may I call up the City Council candidates from District 3, please? All right. The question for you is, how will you address the intersection of environmental and racial justice within the context of Framingham? Councilor Steiner, to you first.
Thank you. A hugely important question, because when we think about environmental justice and the crises that we face, they are impacting our communities of color disproportionately. And I think that's one of the reasons why we see candidates who may take that for granted. So what we need to do is, thankfully we have a sustainability manager, we have a diversity director. We need to start thinking about these issues in both the context of preserving the environment and also our communities of color. When I think about transportation issues and the challenges of downtown traffic and access to jobs, when I think about the quality of the air that impacts our communities of color more, we need to take these issues seriously and approach them very deliberately. Thank you.
Thank you. And Ms. Feeney.
Thank you. I think what we have to do is really look at our environmental justice sites and be serious about their cleanup. General Chemical, according to DEP, says it's going to cost about $9 million to clean it up, but only $2 million has been allotted. I wonder out loud, if that was in Knobscott or in Saxonville or in Pheasant Hill, would we have the $9 million? So I think we have to work together as a community to work with our federal partners, our state partners, to get that money so that we can clean up those sites, because they wouldn't be acceptable anywhere else in this community. And that would be a top priority for me to make sure that we have that funding. We clean up Mary Dennison Park, we clean up General Chemical, because that, I think, is a crime that is going on in this community. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, I am going to call up the Councilor Bryant, please, from District 9. We have a question just for you.
I was hoping to get the last one, but.
All right, the question is, Framingham has a history of inaction. How are you, as a candidate, going to change the curve?
Well, I think that, I have in a lot of instances by working behind the scenes with administration and other people. And from my work experience, I've had to manage people who often weren't on board with new things, changes, because they were already beleaguered and overworked. So you have to see it from their perspective, harness yourself to them so that they don't feel that they're being put upon, but that we're working collaboratively, they're being heard. You state the problem, you let them know that their input is valuable, right? So in action, some of it is true and some of it isn't true. We could do more, we could do it faster. There are better ways. One of the things I did when I went to the municipal conference was, I got the material, I talked to people, in the different booths, the agencies and whatnot about environmental cleanup and whatnot, and then I called them, and I stay in touch. Oh, sorry. So I think that one of the things that I do is collaborate well. I contact all of the leaders and just people in general over an issue. You engage them, you get them involved, and you start setting up infrastructure where they can be useful in whatever amount and to whatever degree they can.
Thank you. All right. And last, but certainly not least, we'll call up our mayoral candidates again. The question for you is, can Framingham provide a public composting option for residents? Please provide details of your idea. All right, Mayor Spicer, we start with you.
It certainly is something that we can look at. And one of the things that I think about, I've seen other communities that have done this, and it's going to have to require people to be organized in their efforts, to be educated on what can be composted, and being able to work closely with, and I would see our DPW, Highway, and Sanitation Department working very closely, similar to what we've done with the recycling program. There's a website, can something be recycled? You can check that. Can something be compost? You can check that. I think it's also an opportunity for us to build on what we've learned so far with Keep Framingham Beautiful, is how do we use compost materials for gardening? How do we garden? Community gardens. So this is an opportunity to start a whole new wave of something different, something that is improving our environment, and certainly showing us how waste doesn't have to end up in the trash can. We can find another way to use some of our waste.
Thank you. And Mr. Sisitsky.
I think we can, and I think we should have a composting program in Framingham. Other communities are doing it. Community next door in Natick has a program right now that they're doing composting. And with the rising cost of the trash disposal, the tipping fees and the recycling fees, the more stuff we get out of the waste stream, the cheaper it's going to be in the long run. We have to deal with those rising costs. And if people continue to generate trash, we have to find other ways of dealing with it. And I think composting is a very desirable way to go. We just need to educate people how to do it. We need to get vendors who specialize in that and will help us to dispose of it properly and find reuses for it. But I definitely think it's something we should do, and we should do it soon.
Thank you. All right, that actually concludes our program for this evening. If I could get the resources slide up there while I just do a couple of closing notes. Again, I want to thank all of the candidates for their time, for their efforts, and their dedication to Framingham. Thank you to all the audience for coming out tonight. It's really wonderful to see everyone here today, and I've enjoyed actually getting out with more than 2 people, so thank you. So we do have a number of resources, like I mentioned, web links here to help you find ideas, a couple of the programs that the city is running, as I've mentioned, and other websites with actions and ideas for you to take, resources for you to take advantage of. I'm happy to chat with anyone afterwards about this, and I think we can all take advantage of maybe the 5 minutes and catch our favorite candidate with the question that didn't get asked. Finally, once again, this event was recorded and it will be available online. If you registered with us, you're going to have, which I think everybody here probably did, you'll receive a link to the recording through email, and have a wonderful evening. Thank you so much.